Hello, suppose I better get this first video shit out of the way. Yeah, I'm not new to YouTube, and this is not the first queer channel I've ever made. But the first one I made was like, I've learned a lot since that one, and a lot of the stuff I said, sort of looking back on it, I think was kind of fucked up a bit. So, I'm trying again. Yeah, so I'm Jack. Hello. I don't really know what to do for this video, so I'm just going to tell you about a load of websites that I found really helpful, resources, just for learning stuff about trans or non-binary issues or language or what have you. So I thought I'd pass them on. Somebody else might find them useful. I certainly did. And a lot of it helped me realise my own privilege, I guess, which is always helpful, I think, when you realise the privileges you have, because I suppose the nature of privilege is that you take it for granted and you don't realise you have it. So I think it's cool when people kind of go, actually, yeah, I'm quite privileged. Anyway, so I shall tell you a little bit about them, and then I shall post the links down below in the description box. Okay, the first one is the Trans Anarchism blog. This guy's really cool. His name's Asher, and he writes some really cool stuff that I find really helpful. He's done a really good sort of Trans 101 post, which is excellent. I think I really liked it. And he has some guest posts. There's one that I really liked called Why Misgendering is Bad, and yeah, so there's some really good stuff on there, and I suppose he's radical and political and stuff, but that's totally cool with me, and I just really like the stuff that he has to say, so yeah. The next link is if you are on FetLife. If you're not on FetLife, you probably won't be able to read this. But somebody who I've encountered on there, whose name is Murdercakes, which is a cool username, wrote a blog post called How to Respect a Transgender Person. And that's also quite good and quite useful if you are cisgendered. And yeah. Or even if you're another trans person and you've sort of newly come to it or something, that's also quite helpful. There's some good stuff on there that's good to keep in mind when you talk to anybody, to be honest. Okay, the next one is tvox.org, which is kind of like a trans, intersex, non-binary wiki. And that's extremely good. They have whole sections on advice, topics about being intersex, topics about being transsexual. They have topics on legal issues in various countries. We have suicide links and hotlines, things like that if you feel really bad. All sorts of stuff on there. They have links to therapists and support groups, etc, etc. They're really, really cool. There's some excellent information on there. They do it in various languages as well, which is always helpful. Yes, there's loads of resources and some really cool information on there that is awesome, and really, really like it. I've learned probably most of what I know probably comes from there, with a few additions here and there. So needless to say, I love tvox and I read it quite regularly. there's a really good page that I just want to kind of bring to everybody's attention, called Cisgender Privilege, and that's very useful, especially if like you have, say, a cisgendered friend who is kind of learning and is cool and open-minded and is trying not to be a dick. That's a really good page to kind of point them into. And that whole T-Vox is kind of for everybody, so whether you're trans or cisgendered or non-binary or intersex or what, you know, whatever. So, yeah, if, Wikipedia also has a page on being cisgendered and what that means, and it's quite good, and you know, has the history of the word and where it comes from, etc, etc, and that's quite good. On the questioning transphobia blog website thing, which I haven't had a look through all of it, but there's a really good page called How Not to Be Defensive When Accused of Transphobia, a guide for for size people, cis people, English fail. Yeah, and that's basically if somebody calls you out on your shit, how not to be defensive about it and actually sit back and learn and kind of think about why what you said might have been really fucked up or offended somebody or oppressive or whatever, and it might be something that again you just didn't know and didn't take for granted, you know, have just taken for granted because that's what the world at large uses and stuff. So yeah, that's a page I read quite often just to kind of remind myself, because I freely admit that in online discussions I have gotten quite defensive before when somebody calls me out, so it's kind of like, well, that's my own pride getting in the way, I think, and my own privilege. So I just kind of keep that up whenever I'm online in case I do say something messed up, and then I can go and just look at that and remind myself. Because even though I do identify as trans and non-binary, you know, I still have to learn all this stuff as well. Like, I wasn't born magically knowing this stuff, so I make mistakes. And last but not least is a really awesome page, and every time I feel really bad or somebody has said something really messed up, or just I've had a shit day, or you know, my dysphoria is really bad or something, then I click onto binarysubverter.wordpress.com, and they have, well, it's another blog, but there's an awesome page that I suggest that every person read. I think it's a great page, and it applies to everybody. It is aimed at trans people, but I think it could apply to a lot more than just trans. Anyway, Trans 101 is just my feel-good page, and it's really sensitive and moving and just kind of reminds me that actually I'm okay and I'm not a freak, or, you know, I do deserve to be here and be loved and all the rest of it. And it is just, it's a really good moving page, and I highly suggest that, you know, you read it because it is cool. Shall read you a few excerpts. The very first thing, because it's all bullet pointed in numbers, is: you are human, you are worthy of respect, you deserve to be treated with the same dignity as everybody else. There is nothing inherently wrong with your gender, you are not broken, you are not disgusting, you do not deserve to be hurt. And that's like the first one, which is, you know, it's always a good thing to remind yourself of. Yeah, just some great stuff on there that whenever I feel like crap, I will go and look at that page and just say, okay, I'm actually a valid human being, so, and that's cool. And that's it for my link dump. If anyone's got any other kind of interesting links or anything like that, then do let me know. While I'm thinking, actually, going back to FetLife briefly, if you're on there, if you're a member of FetLife, look up 2 groups. One is an impenetrable queer and trans fortress on FetLife. The other one is Ask a Genderqueer. Both I found to be quite useful. The former, the queer fortress on FetLife place, is very good and has a lot of interesting topics, covering all sorts of things, including like racism in queer and trans spaces and privilege and all sorts of stuff. So that's quite good. If you're on there, I highly suggest you look at it because it is quite cool. Anyway, okay, I promise that's the last of it now. So yeah, I shall probably do another video kind of explaining my own identity and leave it at that, I think. So bye.